All right, everybody, thanks for joining in. This episode, we're taking a trip all the way back 41 years now. Holy crap, man.
Damn, time is flying.
That just adds even more, like, weight to it when you're like, 40. Oh, wait, it's 41 now. Holy shit. 41 years ago. 1980 was 41 years ago, dude.
Crazy. That's unbelievable.
So we're talking about
Where
a
is the
movie
time flying?
from 1980, and this is a movie that I have put off for probably at least 30 years, I would say. And maybe not quite that long. I don't know if I was aware of it 30 years ago, but I have put off this movie ever since I heard about it, I should say. But yeah, we're talking about 1980s The Changeling.
Now, when you say you've been putting it off, so it's something that's been in the back of your head, like, hey, there's this horror movie called The Changeling, and I've just never gotten to it. It's like you're aware of it.
Yeah, I would say I'm aware of it, and it's not one that I've been like, ooh, I should watch that. It's been, I would say more of it's like, oh, yeah, that movie. When was it made? Oh, 1980. Who's in it? Oh, George C. Scott. Okay. So it's going to be like a 70s movie like all the other ones that I don't really like. Yeah, probably not going to watch that whenever.
Yeah, too funny. This is one that, like, I don't have any recollection of back in the day. I know, like, most of the movies that I choose for our, when we do these reviews, there's always some level of connection or something that, like, I remember back when, like, one of the more recent, obviously, like Salem's Lot, I think that's kind of what made me want to choose this one. I just wanted to stick with that late 70s, early 80s thing. This one was never on my radar back as a kid. I don't remember it at all. I don't remember the name. I don't remember anything. And apparently there's a 2008 remake, which I have. I think I heard about that. I think I remember hearing something about that, but had no clue about what was what when it came to it. So
I had never heard of that one. Yeah, this is one of those movies that I just always kind of knew about for one reason or another. I don't know if it was something with the weird cover art, or I shouldn't say weird, but the wheelchair on the cover art that just stuck with me, or what it was. But yeah, it was one of those ones where I was just kind of like, oh, cool, yeah, there's a movie called The Changeling. Yep. Probably never checked that out. So until the other day, yeah, I never had checked it out. So
yeah, for me it was the actually it's strange you say that, but it was the cover art that kind of brought me to it, because I it's got that weird, like, old school wheelchair or whatever it is. And I was thinking, oh, The Changeling, yeah, that sounds very classic and, like, very, like, like one of those old school horror films that I never saw it. I don't know anything about it. I don't know what the storyline is. So I was like, yeah, what the heck? Let's try this one. I thought it was pretty funny, though, going into this one. I didn't know this was a George C. Scott film. It's weird because when you go back to the older films, like the 70s and early 80s and whatnot, like, your main character, you could get away with, like, a George C. Scott playing the main role. I don't think you could do that anymore. Do you think so? I mean, do you think you could get, like, an old man, like a heavy-set old guy to be, like, your main character? And that would be...
Yeah, I mean, depends on the story. I mean, wasn't a heavy-set guy, but you had a mainstream horror movie from a couple years ago, that Winchester movie that came out, and who was that? That was Helen Mirren who played the lead in that one. So
I'm not familiar with that.
And it's the story about the Winchester lady. She was heir to
I think I do remember that.
Yeah, and she was, and the story is, which is a real story, she supposedly continually built onto this mansion because it was haunted or something. And that's what the movie is. Nothing to do with the guns or anything at all. But anyway.
I see.
But back to your point, though, is it something you would typically think of? No, but, it wasn't like it only happened then, too. I mean, you look at, like, Silence of the Lambs with Anthony Hopkins, I mean, when was that? That was like sort of like the mid 90s and stuff. I mean, not that it happens now, but I could see it happening, I guess.
Well, he was the villain, and he had this kind of like look to him, it was a little bit different, but like this guy was like your main. Like it seems to me like nowadays in modern, especially in horror, and I think we've talked about this so much with the whole WB thing and all that crap. Is like you get these model-esque actors and actresses that look like they came right out of like I guess the WB's. I don't even know if that even exists anymore. Like the WB teeny bop, era, and it's like you would never get like you would like say I don't know anything about the Changeling remake that came out, but in my head, if they were to remake this now, George C. Scott's character would be played by the latest stud from whatever is happening right now, and you know what I mean. It would be he's probably like in his mid-20s.
So, well, let me say this though, because I kind of see what you're saying. Like, you don't have these old classical guys like a George C. Scott or even any of the guys from the 70s that were in some of the other ones, like Donald Sutherland. He was in Invasion of the Body Snatchers and stuff.
Right.
But what I will say though is, if this movie were like going to be a big budget remake, and this character came out and he was played by George Clooney or a Brad Pitt or something, you would be like, okay, I can see that, because I think those are kind of like the George C. Scotts of our time now. Those are, I mean, honestly, I mean, if you look at somebody like George Clooney, I mean, he is an elder actor.
True.
Now, and if you saw him like in something like this, like he would do great in it.
I can see that. No, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I can see that.
But I do get what you're saying, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just weird. Like when you go back to the old school Hollywood films, like the main guy was a lot older.
Yep.
Than like nowadays. They typically go with like a younger look. Another example. I don't know if this completely works well in this analogy, but like the My Bloody Valentine remake, like when you watch the original, like with the miners, and they're younger guys and whatnot, but then you watch the remake, which I'm not opposed of the My Bloody Valentine 3D remake, but they look very like teeny bop Warner WB, whatever, Dawson's
younger
Creek.
Than they should be to be miners. Yeah.
Oh yeah, especially like the sheriff.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just looked like what? He's like, what is he, like 22 and he's the sheriff of the town? Yeah, it's just stuff like that. It's like they do this whole and try to get this Hollywood vibe to it.
Yeah.
But with this one, it was just kind of weird to see. So George C. Scott, he's not playing the grandpa in the film or like the wise elder. He's playing like the main guy with like who is like the what is he is like the, and he lost his kid and everything, and it's just like, dude, you're like more of the grandpa. You'd think like, oh, I lost my grandkid, not my son or whatever, or my daughter.
Well, maybe after he got done with the stuff in this movie, him and Tom Atkins went and had a beer at the bar, and they were like, which young hottie were you banging today? And he was like, oh, yeah, let me tell you all about that, man.
No, perfect example. That's perfect. I can't think of a Tom Atkins in this day and age. That's another one. Yeah, he was like what, like in his 50s back in like Halloween 3 and the fog and all that.
Yeah, I would say it's not as extreme as it was back in the day. It still happens to some degree, but it's not as extreme as it was. So it's not going to be like a George C. Scott. But the thing that I keep envisioning in my head as you were talking, as you were talking is I kept thinking of, and now his name completely just slipped out of my mind. Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence from, like, they were in like 3 or 4 movies together.
Yeah.
He's like a few years older than her. I mean, it's not like horrible or anything, but he's still like older than her enough to where if you like actually think about it, you're like, ooh, that might be like a little creepy. kind of a thing. It's not as bad as like at all like it was like back in the 70s and 80s, like you're saying, where you have these like 55-year-old guys banging these like 25-year-olds,
Right.
and then like acting like the 25-year-old, should be thankful that she just won some sort of prize or something.
Yeah.
That's right,
Exactly.
bitch. Now go get me a beer.
Exactly.
Oh, man. The one thing I will say about The Changeling is that when this movie starts, it does have a very 70s feel to it. But it also wasn't as slow as some of the other 70s movies that I was kind of comparing it to in my head. I kept thinking of like The Exorcist.
Okay.
And not that I was thinking that it would be anything like Black Christmas or anything, but I keep thinking of those movies. And this movie in particular, though, had to have been such a weird time to be making a mainstream like horror movie or a big budget horror movie. Not that this was really that big of a budget, but I mean, George C. Scott's not like he wasn't a nobody. But it had to be such a weird time to be making a movie like this when everybody and their brother is rushing to get their copycat of Halloween out into the world. And then you're just like, oh, here, we're just going to make this movie that's, like a slow burn movie that everybody's used to from the 70s. And we're just going to put this one out.
Right. No, this was like a total ghost story. Whereas, because this was, like Halloween came out 78, and that was when the slasher thing started to kind of build its momentum. And here's another, like a ghost / supernatural story. And, there was like a lot of like you'd mentioned The Exorcist, and things were a lot of that supernatural stuff. But this was like a full on ghost story for that time, which I didn't know either. I had no idea it was going to be that.
Yeah, I don't know that I knew that that's what it was either. And I mean, like we say all the time on here, we're not ones for research. So when you suggested it, I was like, oh, well, let's go ahead and watch this movie then, I guess. And so I was actually even surprised when it turned out to be like a little bit of a ghost story. So that took me by surprise a little bit. And because of that, too, it didn't move as slowly as I was anticipating it to move. So, because that is one of the other things with a lot of the 70s movies.
They drag a bit.
Yeah, they're just so boring.
And I'm with you with that, because I kind of felt like it kind of kept my interest enough, like, which was surprising to me, because I was watching this thing. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a slow burn. But it actually kind of keeps you going with it. You're like, okay, this is all right. So here's what's going to happen and whatnot. And I can't say that this is anything original. I mean, this is. I can't name a film right now that would be like the Changeling, but you could think of like in the back of your head, like, yeah, I knew what was going to happen. You know what's going to go on with this, but it really did kind of keep you going.
I will say the one thing that I did do with this that I typically don't do with movies is I went ahead and I took an intentional break while I was watching this. So I watched probably about half of it. I don't know, probably not quite an hour's worth of it or so the first day. And then I stopped it. And I don't remember what time of day it was when I stopped it. Because I've been home. I'm on vacation the past week or so. And so I was like, oh, I'll watch this movie. And then I stopped it, and I wasn't sure if I was going to come back to it later in the day or if I was going to wait till the next day. And I ended up waiting till the next day to finish it up. But the one thing I will say is, yes, during the first half, it did keep my attention quite a bit. But during the second half, there was actually parts of it where it actually slowed down a little too much.
Okay.
It lost my attention. That second viewing, again, it was like in the middle of the day when I was watching it, so it's easier to lose your attention, I think.
Sure.
in the middle of the day, but
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
there were parts during the second like half of it that did lose my attention a little bit.
Yeah. No, I can see that. Yeah, it's not. This is a slow 1980s film. This is it takes it's not like nowadays where it like keeps you going. Like one thing after the other. It's a slow burn, like you had mentioned. So, and there was a few times too where I think I sat through the whole thing. I don't think I did take that break, which I have had to do in a few of our films that we've reviewed in the past. But I can totally see where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, I did it not. It was weird because I didn't do it out of necessity at the time, but I did it with the intent of, okay, I am going to break this up before I get distracted, kind of a thing.
Makes sense.
And I don't remember that I had this thought intentionally, but I want to say I probably already had it in my head before I ever even started playing it. Okay, I'm going to play this for an hour at the most, and then I'll come back and watch the rest of it. But it is what it is. So yeah, I split it up, and I will admit though that I am glad that I did split it up, because if I wouldn't have split it up, I probably would have missed like the last third of the movie, because I would have probably ended up being checked out of it by that point.
Makes sense. Yeah. No, I can hear that. And sometimes you got to do that with these older films. I certainly had to do it with Salem's Lot when we did that one.
Yeah, that one too. I broke that one up when I watched that one. I watched it over the course of a day, but it wasn't even the course of a day. It was like over like the course of it was like over the course of like 6 hours, and I think it's like a 3-hour movie or something. Where I watched like 45 minutes of it, took a little bit of a break, watched like 45 minutes of it, took a break, and that kind of a thing.
So what did you think about this one with the plot and like what the whole story about this? Obviously, there's this ghost that's trying to get George C. Scott's attention as he moved into this big mansion, and to kind of reveal what really happened and why that person was murdered, and like how that affected these different lives in the film. What were your thoughts on that?
Oh, I'll tell you the one thing that I thought was really good in this movie that we didn't see too much of in some of the other movies. I mean, not that it's completely unique to this movie, but where he was trying to decipher the tapes. And so he was listening through those tapes over and over again. And then there's like that ghost voice in the background.
Yeah.
And he just like really focused in on that. And like, it's a little creepy and a little eerie. And because there's other parts of this movie where it almost is like kind of a 70s version of like Poltergeist. Like a little bit, like Poltergeist light a little bit.
Sure.
But it was like kind of cool to like see that, like that aspect of it. And it was like kind of creepy. But I mean, overall, the story was, it was okay for what it was. Some of the stuff was explained. I think a lot of these like 70s type things could use an update. And as we were saying before, this one was remade. So I would be I would actually be kind of curious to see the remake of this compared to the original, to see if they stay true to the story, but then how they tell the story differently.
Sure.
To keep it more modern, but to also kind of keep it more up tempo. Because I think that's what this one was lacking quite a bit of, was that keeping you interested through at least like part of it. So
sure.
But how about you? What did you think?
Overall, I enjoyed it enough. Like, I was surprised that like I actually had like it seemed a little bit more entertaining than I expected, and I kind of thought to myself, oh, what did I get myself into by like saying this is the one that we should review, but at the end of the day, I was actually pleasantly surprised. And so, believe it or not, I'm going to go ahead and give this one a thumbs up.
Wow. Cool. Yeah, I will say that this was not as slow as I was expecting. I was expecting going into this like another Exorcist or something, just be kind of like, ugh, this is one of those things. But it's The Changeling. It's one of those kind of classic horror movies nowadays. It'd be nice to get it under my belt. So I kind of had a lot of apprehension going into it. But as I said, it did kind of move along a little quicker than I was anticipating. But this is what I will say about it, too. I did take a break in the middle of it. And I did that intentionally. So I won't hold that against this movie at all. But in the same vein, though, as I mentioned before, if I wouldn't have taken that break, I probably would have checked out completely of the movie or gotten to a point where I would have been like, you know what, I got to take a break. So then I would have taken a break. So with that in mind, I am saying, because of that reason alone, if you cannot make it through a film or a TV show or something that was not designed to be viewed in multiple viewings, such as like a mini series, like we were talking about the Salem's Lot thing where it's so long and stuff. When that originally aired, it was, broken up, so people weren't sitting there for whatever it was, 3.5 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Watching that whole thing through. But this, it's not even a 2-hour movie, and I don't think I would have been able to sit through the whole thing. And so because of that, I'm saying it's getting a thumbs down from me.
Really? Okay. Well, no, I can see that, and that's fine. It's definitely not like the most entertaining film, but no, I totally get that.